The diner was nearly empty that night, quiet, except for the soft hum of old holiday music and the trembling voice of a young woman behind the counter. Lily Parker held her phone with both hands, trying to steady herself, but the tears kept falling faster than she could wipe them away. She whispered into the receiver, her voice breaking on every word. "Mom, I can't come home for Christmas. I can't afford the bus ticket." She tried to hide the shame, tried to force steadiness into her voice, but the crack in her tone betrayed everything she carried. In the corner of the diner sat a man who looked like he belonged nowhere near a place like this. Hunter Cole, a billionaire whose name filled magazines, stirred his coffee with quiet intention, yet his eyes were fixed on the young waitress falling apart, only a few feet away. For a man known for his coldness, something flickered across his face, something too human, too lonely, too familiar. And in that moment, a single act of kindness was about to unravel walls built from years of pain. If stories of unexpected kindness warm your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Love is Kindness for more emotional storytelling. Lily Parker was 23 and already felt twice that age. She spent her days serving coffee, clearing dishes, and juggling double shifts just to keep her life stitched together. Warm-hearted, raised by a single mother who taught her how to love fiercely, Lily carried more guilt than anyone realized. She wanted to help her mother through recovery, to make her proud, to lift both of them out of struggle, but life had other plans. She dreamed quietly, privately, in the spaces between exhaustion and responsibility. And she was far too proud to ever ask for help. Hunter Cole lived a very different life, at least on paper. 36 years old, billionaire tech founder, a man whose decisions shaped industries. But beneath the image the world adored was a shadow he never outran. He had lost his sister one Christmas years ago, and since then, he avoided joy the way some avoid grief. He feared connection because connection meant loss. So he kept people out, buried himself in work, and pretended that silence felt like peace. But he watched others more than they knew, noticing the details they thought no one saw. And then there was Marion Parker, Lily's mother, mid-50s, recovering from surgery. She worried more about her daughter than her own health, hiding her struggles so Lily wouldn't feel responsible. She was the root of Lily's sacrifices, the reason she pushed herself too hard, the quiet heartbeat behind everything Lily fought for. 3 lives, none aware of how deeply they were about to collide. Lily's call ended in a soft, broken sob. She wiped her face with the back of her sleeve, whispered an apology to no one, and tried to breathe through the ache expanding in her chest. Before she could gather herself, Hunter stood from his booth. He walked toward the counter with a calmness that didn't match the intensity in his eyes. Without saying a word, he placed a folded napkin beside her hand. On it was a single sentence: "You shouldn't spend Christmas alone." Lily blinked, confused, startled. When she looked up to ask what he meant, Hunter was already walking out the diner door, disappearing into the night before she could say anything. Later, when the rush ended and she finally opened the napkin, something slipped out and fluttered onto the counter. A first-class plane ticket, booked in her name. For Christmas morning. Her breath caught painfully. One part of her felt seen for the first time in a long time. Another part felt terrified. Why would a stranger, especially a man like that, do something so selfless? And now I ask you, what would you have done if a stranger gifted you a ticket home for Christmas? The next morning, Lily rushed to the airport, clutching the first-class ticket with trembling hands. Every step tightened the knot of disbelief in her chest. She approached the counter and explained there had been a mistake, that she needed to return the ticket, that someone must have purchased it without her consent. But the agent only looked at her with polite confusion. The ticket was purchased under her name, non-refundable, non-transferable, intentionally locked. Lily's stomach twisted. What kind of man buys a stranger a ticket home and then makes it impossible to refuse? The thought unsettled her. Did he expect something? Did he think her desperation made her easy to control? Her mind spiraled, filling in fears she never had time to process. Across the terminal, unseen by her, Hunter watched quietly from a distance. He had come only to make sure she could change the ticket if she wanted. He told himself she deserved the choice, but now, watching her confusion and growing anger, he felt a familiar ache, the fear that he had overstepped the fragile boundaries of kindness. He turned away before she could notice him, the weight of doubt pressing hard on his chest. The next day, Lily returned to work at the diner, determined to pretend nothing had happened, determined to regain control of a life that never seemed to stay steady. But when she glanced toward the corner booth, the one he always chose, she felt her breath catch. Hunter was sitting there, quietly stirring his coffee, as if the world hadn't shifted between them. Once again, he watched her. Not with arrogance, but with a softness he didn't know how to hide. Lily approached him, voice low but firm. "Why would you do something like that for me?" Hunter met her eyes for a brief second before looking away. He told her she deserved to go home, told her no one should spend Christmas alone, told her it was nothing. But his voice cracked on the last word. And in that tiny tremor, that tiny fracture in his carefully controlled demeanor, Lily saw something she hadn't expected. Not pity, not condescension, but a deep, unspoken sadness, a loneliness that mirrored her own. The moment stretched between them, soft and electric, planting emotional seeds neither of them could ignore. Hunter stayed past his usual time, and Lily found herself returning to his table again and again, each visit pulling another thread from the guarded fabric of their lives. She told him about her mother's surgery, the medical bills, the long nights at the diner, the guilt that gnawed at her every time she thought of home. She admitted she felt stuck, drained, afraid of disappointing the woman who had sacrificed so much for her. Hunter didn't interrupt. He didn't offer money. He didn't try to fix anything. He just listened deeply, attentively, something she hadn't experienced in years. Then his own truth slipped out, like a breath he could no longer hold. He told her he hadn't been home for Christmas since his sister died, that the holiday no longer felt warm, that he spent most of his life building success because it was easier than facing what was broken inside him. Lily softened at the pain behind his words, pain wealth could never shield him from. Their conversation stretched long after her shift ended. Coffee refills turned into emotional exchanges that neither of them saw coming. Lily laughed at one of his rare jokes, a sound so genuine that Hunter looked at her in stunned silence, as if he hadn't heard laughter like that in years. He watched her wipe tables with quiet determination, saw the exhaustion she carried, yet still found ways to smile, and something inside him shifted. She began to see him not as the billionaire who bought her a ticket, but as a man fighting ghosts of his own. Romantic tension threaded itself between their words, gentle, hesitant, unspoken, building slowly in the spaces where fear met possibility. But not everyone saw the kindness blooming quietly between them. During a slow shift, Lily's coworker leaned over the counter and spoke with a sharpness that cut deeper than intended. "Guys like him always want something. Don't fool yourself." The words sank into Lily like stones. What if she was being naive? What if this connection wasn't kindness but a trap she couldn't afford to fall into? Doubt slithered its way into her heart. She began keeping her distance, offering shorter replies, avoiding the warmth she once let slip through. Hunter noticed immediately. Her laughter faded. Her visits to his booth grew fewer. She no longer met his eyes the way she used to. He felt the distance but didn't know why. Once again, the fear of losing someone without explanation crept back into his chest. Just when Lily thought she had regained some control, reality struck with ruthless timing. Her landlord knocked on her door, holding an envelope that felt heavier than paper had any right to be. An eviction notice. Rent overdue. Move out by the end of the month. The words blurred as panic swallowed her breath. She had been juggling bills for months, always one shift away from falling behind. Now everything was catching up. Hours later, just as she sat trembling on her small couch, her phone rang. A call from the bank. Her rent had been paid. In full. Anonymous payer. Her heart dropped. Her hands shook with anger and fear. She didn't need anyone controlling her life. She didn't need pity disguised as generosity. In a storm of emotion, She ran back to the diner where Hunter sat alone, quietly drinking his coffee. And without giving herself time to breathe, she confronted him. "Stop controlling my life. I didn't ask for your help." The pain in Hunter's eyes was instant, raw, and heartbreaking. He stood slowly, confusion tightening his voice. He told her he hadn't paid anything, told her he respected her boundaries, but Lily couldn't hear it through the roar of her fear. She kept pushing, kept accusing, until he stepped back with a wounded look she never expected to see on a man with his power. Without another word, Hunter walked out, not angry, just deeply hurt. The kind of hurt that comes from being misunderstood when all you offered was sincerity. Later that night, the truth reached her. Her mother had borrowed money from a neighbor, desperate to keep Lily afloat without telling her. The realization struck Lily so hard she sank to the floor, guilt crashing through her in waves. She had broken the heart of the one person who saw her pain without asking for anything in return. Christmas Eve arrived heavy with regret. Hunter didn't show up at the diner. For the first time since he'd walked into her life, his booth remained empty. His absence echoed louder than any presence ever had. And Lily finally understood what she had done. She had pushed away the only soul who looked at her with genuine care. She had turned fear into accusation and kindness into something to distrust. With shaking hands and a heart pounding with urgency, she left the diner and rushed to the only place she knew he might be, his office building towering over the quiet city. She found him on the top floor, sitting alone in a dim room, staring at a dusty photograph of his sister. His shoulders were slumped, his defenses stripped away, grief written in the lines of his face. He didn't flinch when she whispered his name. Instead, he spoke softly, almost to himself. "I bought the ticket because I wish someone had sent one for her." The confession cracked something inside her, the pain, the love, the longing he had been carrying all these years. And for the first time, Lily truly understood him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the year, the grief, the misunderstandings, everything hung in the air like a fragile thread. Finally, Lily stepped closer, her voice soft, trembling with remorse. She told him she was sorry for assuming the worst, sorry for letting fear twist something pure into something painful. Hunter lowered his head, admitting he should have respected her boundaries, that he never meant to overshadow her life with his own attempts at kindness. He apologized, not as a billionaire used to fixing problems with money, but as a man who was learning how to care again. Their walls began to dissolve, one apology at a time. Then Lily whispered the words that stopped his breath. "You didn't just send me home. You reminded me I matter." Hunter's eyes softened in a way she had never seen before. His voice trembled when he finally replied, "You reminded me I'm still alive." And in that quiet exchange, two wounded hearts finally found a place to rest. If stories about compassion and second chances touch your heart, make sure you're subscribed to Love is Kindness. Lily took the first-class flight home the next morning. As the plane ascended, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. When she stepped through her mother's front door, Marion broke into tears, holding her daughter with a joy only a mother could understand. It was the Christmas reunion Lily thought she had lost forever. And just when she believed the day couldn't offer anything more, a gentle knock sounded at the door. Lily opened it to find Hunter standing there, slightly unsure, carrying a small gift in his hand. Marion welcomed him in instantly, thanking him with a warmth that made his eyes glisten. "Thank you," she said softly, "for giving my daughter her smile back." Later, as snow drifted quietly outside, Lily and Hunter stood beneath the soft glow of Christmas lights. No dramatic declarations, no rush, just two people learning the language of hope again. Their hands brushed lightly, and the silence between them grew warm. Lily leaned in and wrapped her arms around him, whispering a truth that felt like the perfect ending and the perfect beginning. "You gave me Christmas. Maybe I can give you one too." A soft, hopeful ending, one that promised more love than either had ever expected to find. And now, for you, watching what part of their journey touched your heart the most.